Ed Morrissey is with hotair.com. He's the hotair.com blogger. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Well, give us an update on Minnesota. Apparently, CNN is running a headline that Franken will be, certified today?
The canvassing board is about to report that...
Canvassing board, okay.
Yeah, is about to report the results of the recount, which goes to the Secretary of State, and the Secretary of State has to certify the results. But there's a 7-day gap between the report and the actual completion of the certification. And the 7-day gap is there to allow for election contests. This isn't really over, but you have to say that Norm Coleman is seeing the opportunities dissipate here in front of him. He's going to have to contest how the recount was conducted. He's going to have to contest how the absentee ballots were selected. He's already got a couple of lawsuits in the works for that, and he's going to have some help from the court to go back and basically redo the recount.
Wow. So what I hear you saying, and I think you'd prefer it to be Norm Coleman.
Oh, yeah.
That it's looking bad for Coleman.
It is looking bad for Coleman. I think...
Daggone it.
I think the absentee ballots, Bill, were the last opportunity for Norm Coleman to win this election. Nobody really knew what was in the absentee ballots.
Yeah.
They hadn't been even opened prior to looking at this. These are the, and I should specify this. These are the ones that the absentee ballots that were rejected outside of statutory requirements. And there were only about 935 of them that were opened.
Ed, who do you think got the most votes?
You know, it is so close that we had almost 3 million people cast votes in this state. For a state of slightly less than 6 million people, that's pretty amazing. And it is so close that you'd have to say it was really a dead heat. And
why? Okay, that's my other question. What is with Minnesota? I mean, I love Minnesota. We were out for the convention. We had a great time this Saturday morning in Minnesota. Ladies hosted a breakfast. Mrs. Bennett was there, Seth and I. Great people, but it's got this weird lefty orientation. What did Vin Weber say once? Minnesota's Wisconsin without conservatives.
Well, we're here. We're just not in large numbers.
That's
is that it? Problem. And in about every 10 years, they just like to do something really stupid. And 10 years ago, it was Jesse Ventura, and apparently in 2008, it was Al Franken. And I think what happened was that Barack Obama really put a strong wind at Al Franken's back, and even with that, he couldn't do any better than a dead heat with Norm Coleman.
Why were some 600 or 800 absentee ballots not allowed?
No, these were allowed. What happened was that there's 4 statutory reasons for rejecting absentee ballots, and I won't bore you by going into the details. It's pretty legalistic. It has to do with how they're identified on the outside on the security envelope.
I see.
And both campaigns were arguing that some of those ballots were improperly rejected.
I see.
But the question was, how do you determine which ones were improperly rejected? And the Coleman campaign was dissatisfied with the decision as to how to free up those ballots, if you will, and add them back into the count. And that's what he's going to be contesting at the Supreme Court today.
Wow! If there were a re-election next week, Ed, would Norm Coleman prevail?
I think he would. If you take a look, and I'm using Georgia as my guideline here. You had Saxby Chambliss, who barely got by Jim Martin in Georgia, by about 3 points, but couldn't quite make the 50% plus one threshold in Georgia. And they had a revote 4 weeks later, and Saxby Chambliss won by something like 15 points. It wasn't even close in the revote. And I think once you get Barack Obama off the top of the ticket, the Democrats don't do so well this year.
Yeah.
And I think without having Barack Obama as the big draw for the top of the ticket here, Norm Coleman probably would have won re-election, not by 15 points, but probably by a significant margin.
What's his next shot if he's out? We got 30 seconds.
Next shot is the Minnesota Supreme Court, and if they don't come through for him, he's done.
All right, say it. Next electoral shot.
Next electoral shot, perhaps a governor if Tim Pawlenty doesn't want to run for a third term.
Well, we hate to lose Coleman. He's a valuable and able man. Good grief, and to replace him with Frank. And the only advantage. Thank you very much, Ed. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
The only advantage maybe it's just adding to this somewhat of a loony bin Democrats are putting together in Washington. We'll be back. Keep writing, Ed. Keep us posted. What great stuff he does. What a good genial guy, too. Ed Morrissey. And you want to go to that site, folks. It's hotair.com.